The research station on Kestrel 9 drifted in its usual evening hush when NORA VANCE decided she was done pretending nutrient gel counted as dinner. 16 weeks into her xenocultural liaison posting, surrounded by species that could fold space, grow buildings from coral, and calculate quantum probabilities for fun, she was still eating something the dispenser proudly labeled balanced sustenance. But it tasted like warm apology. Enough. NORA slid her cabin's privacy latch. She pulled a compact cooking kit from the false bottom of her storage trunk. Contraband, technically, and therefore emotionally essential. She set it on the tiny counter like a sacred relic. A single pan, a single pot. A handful of real ingredients she had been hoarding the way other people hoarded credits. Oil hit heat. Garlic followed, immediate, sharp, alive. Then onions, turning translucent, sweetening as they surrendered. NORA's shoulders loosened for the first time all day. She added crushed tomatoes, a pinch of dried basil, black pepper, a tiny cube of stock concentrate she had traded for a favor in the hydroponics bay. Pasta went into boiling water with a hiss-like relief. The smell did not just fill the room. It claimed it. NORA hummed an old Earth tune under her breath, stirring the sauce like she was stirring herself back into something human. For a few minutes, she forgot the station's sterile corridors, the polite alien smiles, and the way every conversation felt like a spreadsheet. There was only the simmer, the steam, and the simple joy of making something warm on purpose. She did not notice when her door's environmental sensors registered a minor air pressure shift. She did not notice the first faint chirp from the corridor monitor. She did notice when Civ appeared in her doorway. SIV was a Veilkin cub, barely chest-high to NORA, with soft down fur and 2 large eyes. Veilkin were famous for composure. Their adults served as negotiators in disputes that lasted decades. Their cubs were trained early in restraint. SIV was not practicing restraint. He stood there clutching a stationish nutrient cup with both hands like it was a ceremonial offering. His nose, 2 slits that flared when he breathed, trembled. His ears tilted forward with a focus that bordered on predatory. NORA froze with a spoon mid-stir. SIV stared at the pot as if it contained forbidden knowledge. The atmospheric composition, Civ said, voice small but painfully formal. His translator rendering the Veilkin's tonal language into crisp station standard, has changed? NORA blinked. Hung. Complex volatile compounds detected, SIV continued. Trying very hard to sound like an adult researcher and failing every third syllable. Heat-altered proteins, caramelization, lipid oxidation producing a phenomenon this one's training file describes as unreasonable craving. Spoon lowered slowly. Are you doing an investigation in my doorway? SIV lifted the nutrient cup an inch higher. This one requests a sample. NORA stared at him. Then at the cup. Then back at him. You want pasta? Swan does not understand pasta, Civ said solemnly. This one understands that human NORA VANCE is producing an aroma that has interrupted cognitive task flow. As if to prove it, Civ's eyes widened, and his tail, an undignified puffball, made a tiny betrayed wag. NORA opened her mouth to answer, but the corridor behind Civ filled with movement. 2 more cubs appeared. One was a crelloid juvenile, silicon-shelled, with a triangular optical cluster glittering like prisms. The other was a young Xanthari, a security species lean and muscular, with fur patterned in pale stripes, posture trained into discipline since birth. Both carried containers. Not nutrient cups. Improvised bowls. One looked like a repurposed coolant tray. They stopped the moment they reached NORA's door, as if an invisible line had been drawn in the air by the smell alone. The Xanthari cub's nose twitched so hard her whole head bobbed. That scent, she whispered, voice gone soft. What is the human doing? The crelloid's optics fixed on the stove with unsettling intensity. Organic chemistry event confirmed, it clicked. Millard Cascade identified. Unscheduled pleasure response detected. NORA's eyebrows climbed. You 3 cannot be here. SIV's ears pinned back an apology that was not apology at all. This one attempted to ignore it. The Zenthari cub took a step forward, then stopped herself like she had run into a wall of manners. "We are not begging," she said quickly, which was exactly what a being who was begging would say. The Kraloid extended its tray with mechanical precision. "This one is conducting research." Nora stared for a long beat. Then she sighed the sigh of a woman who knew she was about to become a station-wide incident. "Fine," she said, and pointed to the corridor. "But quietly, and you wipe your feet, metaphorically. And if an elder asks, you were never here." Sive's tail puffed bigger. Acknowledged. Within 7 minutes, Nora's quarters stopped being quarters and became a conspiracy. Cubs gathered from every nearby module as if the aroma had sent an invitation straight into their nervous systems. They arrived with bowls, canisters, ration lids, and a clean helmet liner someone swore could work in an emergency. They came from species that built cities inside comets. Species that measured time and star eclipses. Species whose adult leaders debated ethics and philosophical harmonics. And now they were forming a line outside a human's door like it was a festival food stall. Nora muttered to herself while she scaled up her sauce. "This violates at least 30 protocols." Her cabin's tiny cooktop groaned under the effort as she pulled a second pot from storage, boiled more water, and cracked open emergency rations she had sworn she would save for a bad day. If this was not a bad day, she did not know what was. The cubs watched with reverent silence. Every movement of Nora's hands was tracked by multiple sensory organs: optics, antennae, whiskers, heat pits, vibration hairs. To them, this was not cooking. This was sorcery. SIV received the first portion because he had technically arrived first, and because his eyes looked like he might faint if the universe delayed him any longer. Nora twirled pasta, ladled sauce, and topped it with a dusting of grated cheese that smelled like home in a way that made her throat tighten unexpectedly. SIV stared at the bowl as if it might explode. Then he took a bite. For a second, nothing happened. Then his pupils dilated. His posture collapsed like a tower losing its internal supports. His ears drooped. His whiskers trembled. And his tail, so carefully controlled, fluffed to maximum volume. "Oh," Siv breathed. Not a word. A surrender. The Kraloid leaned in, optics flickering through rapid spectrum shifts. Its translator hesitated, then chose the closest equivalent. System error. Joy. The Zenthari cub's claws flexed against her bowl. "It's warm," she whispered, as if warmth itself was illegal. SIV swallowed again, slower this time, like he was trying to understand what his body was doing without permission. "It is inefficient," SIV announced, finally, as if returning to the safety of logic would fix whatever had just happened to him. "The preparation time is excessive. The nutritional profile could be optimized. The texture requires unnecessary jaw work." He looked up at Nora. And despite the translator, there was no hiding the raw honesty in his eyes. "I require more," he said. That did it. The line surged forward. Not rude, never rude, but with an urgency that made discipline look like a costume slipping off. Nora served them all. A volcanic world cub skin adapted to magma heat. Took one bite of garlic bread and let out a sound the station logs would later classify as near religious. A vacuum-adapted juvenile whose species communicated through subsonics, discovered Parmesan, and vibrated so hard the spoons rattled. Two hive-linked cubs got into their first individual disagreement over who got the last meatball. Staring at each other in shocked betrayal like they had discovered personal desire, Nora kept scooping, stirring, boiling, laughing under her breath, because the alternative was admitting she might cry. "Why do humans do this?" The Zenthari cub asked between bites, sauce on her whiskers, eyes shining with something dangerously close to happiness. "You spend time, energy, care. For a task, the dispenser solves in seconds." Nora wiped her hands on a towel and leaned back against the counter watching them eat. "Because it's not just food," she said softly. "It's a message, a gift you can taste." Siv tilted his head, still clutching his bowl like it was a treasure. "The elders will not understand this." "Oh," Nora agreed. "They probably won't." The Kraloid's optics dimmed thoughtfully. This one's efficiency doctrine is compromised. Nora's mouth quirked. Welcome to the problem of being alive. Ziv took another bite, slower now, as if he was trying to memorize it. Then he cleared his throat with exaggerated seriousness. This one will return tomorrow, he declared with additional cubs. Nora pointed at him with her spoon. No. Ziv lifted his empty bowl, eyes wide and unblinking. And a larger container. Nora stared at the assembled crowd of brilliant, unstoppable young aliens who had just discovered that dinner could be magic. She exhaled and surrendered with a half-smile. Fine, she said. But next time you are bringing your own napkins. The next day, the senior researchers were baffled to discover youth wing productivity had risen by 28%. Collaboration metrics improved. Stress indicators dropped. Conflict frequency decreased. The cubs were calmer, sharper, kinder. They were also, mysteriously, always lingering near Nora's corridor at Motalamist. When questioned, SIV, standing painfully straight with all the dignity a cub could fake. Answered with perfect seriousness, "We are conducting nutritional research," he said. "It is very important, very scientific." Hidden behind his back, smelled suspiciously like lasagna. The elders did not understand, but the cubs did. And in that understanding, the station took its first small step toward something the galaxy had never quite grasped about humans. Any species could. Conquer the stars. Only humans could turn dinner into a reason to come together. Asterisk. Subscribe. 2 neon cub tales right now, because the next cub story is even crazier. If this one made you smile, hit like so I know to make more, and comment this. More cubs tell me your favorite moment, and which meal Nora should cook next.